Kia wants in on the biggest trend in cars today, namely 40 mpg. One way they join that club is with the not minuscule Optima Hybrid. Let's check the tech. The Optima Hybrid is the Sonata Hybrid's sister. Mechanically, they're peas in a pod, but stylistically, miles apart. Kia is setting out to capture a hipper urban crowd, and in doing so, rolls in a little more standard tech than a Sonata. But none of that matters if it doesn't just plain drive well and sip gas. Now, since we're in an Optima Hybrid, there's a lot of hybrid stuff going on in the interface you won't see on a standard Kia Optima or even a standard Sonata. Fuel economy. This gives you a set of 2.5-minute time slices of how greenly you drove in that window. The more of those little leafs, the better, obviously. Energy flow is one of those things you won't see in a few years. It explains what a hybrid does. Eventually, everyone will understand this, and we won't need a silly diagram. It's not that interesting. Car is the one that tells you what your eco level is in the driving session. More bars is better. They get green toward the right. If you fill these all the way up and light up every bar with your light-footed driving, you end up getting a point over here on total eco score, which mine's currently at 40. See, the car's a big video game. You hit certain levels and you get points. The last one, that I have no idea what it does, is Earth. This is telling me, apparently, that my engine and my electric motor are contributing to turning the Earth. I don't think that's the case. Now, we've got a button down here that is kind of part of all this. It's Active Eco, on or off. When it's on, of course, the car behaves very differently. It's more reticent to give you power. It also is regenning as hard as it can. It's in a full kind of power conservation mode. But the response, the performance does change a bit. We'll find out when we go on the road in a little bit. You've got your battery charge gauge over there on the left side, your fuel on the bottom right, and if I roll through all these center screens, there's that eco score, my video game total. Instantaneous fuel economy is that ring. Average fuel economy is the one in the middle, the number. Let's get to the head unit. Now, we've got a nice navigation system in this car, which is not the same as saying it's going to blow your mind. It just works really well. It's rather basic. The map resolution's good. It's quite clear. I don't have a problem reading any street names. I zoom in and out with these actual on-screen buttons right here. But there's no nonsense like a bird's eye flyover, no 3D building renderings, no satellite photo overlay, none of that stuff. It's serviceable and it does the important stuff right. But notice this, and this I think is very important. Lightning fast response to touchscreen buttons. You'll never sit there and hit it twice or wonder if you've got to press it harder or some other nonsense. I have never seen a more responsive touchscreen in a production car. Our media sources are AM and FM, but there's no HD radio on this guy. Satellite radio, Sirius, of course, same as our traffic service. Under media, you've got several choices. Here's our single slot CD above there, no DVD playback. iPod, got that connected right now. That uses one of these proprietary cables they make. It's standard Apple on one end, but you've got this dual pigtail thing on the other end. And I've got my Bluetooth streaming here. This got all connected when I did my Bluetooth calling. Not all cars do that. Sometimes they make you do two separate operations. We do have an optional audio system here which gives us Infinity sound and 8 speakers. Again, they're Infinity branded instead of 6 speakers and generic audio. Here's my backup camera. As you can see, I've got some distance markings in color, but there's no trajectory or alternate views. Again, playing the hits. Now, as part of a real chunky premium package that rolls a ton of stuff in, including navigation, you've got this panoramic roof. Well, panoramic roofs. One front, one rear. They're on the same rollback curtain. You see I've got a nice big moving panel in the front, the usual fixed over the rear, but kind of a nicety for a car in this class. Now, the Optima is a good-sized car, but you're not going to be putting a lot of good-sized things in its trunk. It's a normal-sized trunk, don't get me wrong, but check it out. There's no fold flat or just barely a pass-through for what? Skis is normally what you consider that, because along here in the middle and middle left is where the lithium polymer battery lives. But between that and that big duct there for some rear ventilation or AC, you're stuck with a trunk. This never becomes a hauler. Okay, under the hood on this Optima Hybrid, we begin with a 2.4-liter inline-4. It's Atkinson cycle. That means it's been timed so that it burns fuel completely, but at the expense of some torque. You get 206 horsepower total, 195 foot-pounds of torque out of this configuration. That includes the electric motor, which accounts for 40 horsepower and 151 foot-pounds of that torque, though they don't just add simply. This is going to give you a 0 to 60 time of question mark. We don't know yet. The testing isn't done from the various places that do that, and we don't have a track to do it ourselves. But I got the MPG for you. It's 3540. It's a good number. Better than Camry, for example, while it's costing less. But how does it drive? Let's go find out. This car drives like it's really well bolted together. That's the overall ride quality. Feels rather heavy, even though it's not a terribly heavy car. What bothered me over and over in the time I was driving it is this disconnected nature of the powertrain. There's an awful lot of stuff going on here, and it lets you know it. That's the problem. I think I'm feeling the electric motor kick in and out. I'm feeling the transmission hunt around from 6th to 3rd sometimes, trying to find the right gear when I step on it. I'm feeling the engine be gutless, but trying to do what it can when it revs up from near an idle when cruising. Bottom line is, you step on this car, you don't just get linear power, you get all kinds of things that happen that either delay or segment the delivery of power. Now, when you step on it, do you get plenty of power? Absolutely, like almost any modern car. But what I need is responsiveness more than just power. Power without that is kind of a drag to drive. So I think this powertrain needs more refinement before I'd find it enjoyable to drive, not just satisfactory. They say you can get up to 62 miles an hour in EV mode, in other words, running electric. Never approach that. You got to really, really feather it on the pedal to keep this guy in electric. And that big EV light comes on right there, a big square one, to let you know when you've got the engine shut down, so it's very clear. Overall, I average something in the low to mid-30s MPG, depending on the day. And that includes mixed driving on a number of hills. This is San Francisco, after all. Considering that a Camry hybrid only promises 35 highway, this guy's doing pretty well. Okay, what do you pay for a Kia Optima Hybrid? Well, it's $27,200. That includes destination. Not a lot of options, certainly not when you want to go CNET style. You either do or don't get the hybrid premium package. $5,000, like I said, it's chunky, but everything's rolled in there. That's super quick touchscreen GPS navigation, the Infinity sound system, this panoramic roof, 17-inch wheels, and high-intensity discharge lights, as well as a bunch of other niceties. But you can't be onesie-twosie on it. You take the whole package or you don't.